Greetings, traveler. Sometimes when we think about the games that we make, it's quite hard and confusing to decide how many sales we need to make to hit our profit target. So to hit however much money we want to make by making this game. Today, we're looking at one very simple formula to calculate this and remove all the ambiguity from this super important process. If you don't know who I am, my name is Xanthos, and I've been working in the games industry for the last decade or so. So this is my way of sharing everything I know with you. So let's just jump right in. What I have here is a very simple way in Google Sheets to calculate this method. So to go through this method, we'll need 3 steps. One will be the setup, which is some basic numbers that we're going to need to do our calculations with. The second part is doing our calculations, and in the end we'll see what the magic number is to hit the magic profit target that we have set for ourselves. So first I will go through this completed formula, and then I'm going to break it down so you know exactly how to make all the calculations here, what formulas you need, and how to do it yourself. So let's start here. First of all, in the setup, we'll put down some basic information about revenue and profit and costs that we have from the game. And just to be clear, revenue, when we're talking about this, is all the money that you get from the sales of the game. So when somebody buys your game, let's say on Steam, for let's say $10, all this price goes towards the revenue of the game, while profit is the money you get to keep after you pay for all the costs that the game development or the fees that are associated with sales are paid. So let's start with the setup. Here we're having a sample game price of $10. The power of this sheet is that, of course, you can change all these values and adapt it to your needs. So setting a $10 starting price here, and as we know, Steam takes 30% of your revenue. That means that for every $10 that you get from a sale, Steam automatically takes 30% of that, so $3 here. Next, I added a possible publisher fee that you might have, which is 30% again on revenue here as a sample case. Of course, you might not have a publisher, or you might have negotiated a different split with the publisher. Maybe it's some set money up front and then a percentage of sales later, or some other arrangement. But to keep things simple, for this, let's go with a flat 30% cut from your sales revenue here. Now, tax is similar to that, and tax is something you will have to pay eventually, but the tax is applied on the profit of the game. So it's not applied right when a sale happens. It is applied when, let's say, at the end of the year, you report your earnings, your profit total, to the tax office, and that's when they see how much money you made after subtracting all costs, and they will tax a percentage of that. So here, again, to keep things simple, we're applying a 30% cut from the tax here, but of course, you can replace this with the number that applies to you. To make it a bit more inclusive in our calculations here, I have added some sample other costs you might have. So perhaps you had to purchase some software to build the game, or you had to buy a computer or something. So of course the costs are something that can go very deep. It can be very complicated, especially if you have a big team and a studio and so on. So we'll try to keep it as simple as possible here and just show you how this reflects on our calculations. Finally, what we have here is the profit target. What this means is that after this game is complete and it goes on sale and it sells for some time, this is how much money you would like to make as profit at the end of the day. Now, of course, this process can be broken down further, because You will not receive all the profit from the game in one day. Usually it's going to be a long trailing process, starting with most of the money received a couple of months after the game goes on sale, and the rest of the money will come over time, over the following years, especially if you choose to do discounted sales of the game. But again, to keep things simple, let's say you just want to earn $10,000 here from selling your game. So let's go and find out how many units you need to sell to do this. So let's go through the calculations as they are here, and then right after that, let's jump in and do the calculations from scratch so you know how to apply this yourself. So the money per sale is what you get as soon as the game is sold. So this number is simply the same as this number here. Next, we're pulling together all the publisher and Steam fees, and we can do so because they're both applied on the revenue. That's why we have Steam and publisher fees here, and we don't have the tax added in this number. So it's just these two. So after applying this 60% removed for fees to the game sales price, this is what we're left with. And you might think, okay, so this is our profit. Well, we have to check for tax as well. So a 30% tax applied on this price that's left to us after the fees will end up with $2.80 profit per sale in a game. So the conclusion of all this would be that to break even, so this is not yet to hit your profit target, this is just to break even. And what breaking even means is that just to pay back the costs that you had to pay just to create the game, you would need, in this case, to sell 714 units. So you might be wondering how all these numbers are calculated. So let's jump in and do it together. So let's start with the money per sale. So the money per sale is simply going to be the same as the price of the game. The Steam and publisher fees are going to be these two that are applied on the revenue. So on Google Sheets, you simply do this fee plus this fee, and we end up with 60%. By the way, if you're wondering how it's possible to format these numbers in such a way that you have money and percentages and so on just as you want them here and not just text, then this menu will be your friend. You will select the cell that you want, and you will go to format, number, and depending on your location, the unit for money will be dollars or pounds or euros or whatever your settings are. If it's just a number that you need for percentages, you can use this number here, or percent. If your currency is not displayed here in the beginning, what you can do is go here to custom currency, and here select from the list whichever applies to you. And Google Sheets even allows you a few variants here to make sure the price is shown as you want. And finally, if the price needs more decimals or fewer decimals, you can adjust it with these two buttons here. Okay, so we have our total percentage of the sales taken by Steam and publisher fees. So now we want to know, after this percentage is taken from our price, what are we left with? So the way we calculate this is we take the money per sale, and from that we subtract the money per sale again times the total percentage taken from our revenue. And this will give us the money that will go to us after Steam and the publisher have taken their cut in this sample case. Now, this is the money we get to keep for ourselves, but we still have to pay for our tax. So the tax is applied directly here, the money that is our profit for the year. So to see what we're left with, we have to do again the same, take the money that we're left with, but from that we'll have to subtract this money times the percentage that tax takes. And so we're left with $3, which is actually not correct because Google Sheets is trying to round up this value. If we increase the decimal points to the right, we get a more precise result, which is $2.80. So this is the profit that we will have for each sale that we make. So if, after all these costs, we're left with $2.80 of actual money earned per sale, then let's go ahead and find out how many units we need to hit our profit target of $10,000. Well, first of all, we have this other cost here that we haven't discussed so far. So perhaps this is the cost for our computer or for software or whatever. So we need to include this in our calculation for how many total units we need to sell. So let's start with the cost to break even. That would mean we take the cost we incurred so far and we divide it by the profit we get from every sale. And that's how we end up with 714. So if we sell 714 copies of our game, we have simply broken even with the cost we incurred so far. We're very far away from hitting our profit target. So to hit our profit target, then we would need to do the same with our target value, which is the $10,000 we want to make. Divide this by the profit we get per sale. And we get this 3,571 copies that we need to sell. Let me remove some decimals to make it simpler. So this is how many copies we need to sell to get to our $10,000 goal. But we also need to sell these copies as well to cover for our costs. So let us add that into the calculation. So let's put this into a parenthesis and add the copies that we need to sell to cover for the costs we incurred so far. And we end up with a grand total of 4,286 copies that we need to sell, assuming these numbers up here, to reach our golden $10,000 goal. So that's the very quick and easy calculation to do it. Of course, the benefit of taking the time to put it all in Google Sheets or in Excel if you want, is that now we can play with this value and say, well, I would like to make $100,000. Then the numbers automatically adjust, and you see you would need 36,000 units sold to get to that number. Or maybe you want to sell your game not for $10, but maybe for $20. Then this would bring the number of sales you need to make to half, roughly. So you can play around with these numbers, you can change them as you want, and make a nice projection for yourself of, first of all, what's a realistic expectation for the profit that you make per sale. So let me switch it back to the original numbers. So what's a realistic expectation of the money you get for each sale compared to the game price? And see, the important thing here is that from the $10 that you set the sale of the game for, so the price of the game, you only get to keep 2.8. So that's roughly a quarter of the price. So that's the first step in disillusioning yourself, in a sense, of about how much profit you can expect from the game. And then finally, in numbers, when you think about actual sales, or you're comparing this game to the market size and how big of a chunk in that market you're hoping to grab, what's a realistic goal for your game, and what's the road ahead for you getting there. So that's it for the game calculation. If you find this helpful, and if you want to know more about how to reason about making games and how to running the numbers behind them and making sure we have always a nice, sustainable, profitable operation going, go ahead and subscribe, because I'm going to be covering a couple more topics of this in the near future. Until then, have fun.